YouTube video, I'm going to talk about how to create a magazine in Adobe Indesign CS5. If you're using Adobe CC, that's okay too, it'll be very similar. First thing that you need to do is click on Create New Document. Okay, and you'll see that there'll be a bunch of default settings. So the first thing you need to decide is how big you want your page sizes to be. The safest way to go is probably A4 for what you're trying to do. So we can just keep page size at that. Up here we want to tell the program how many pages we want in our magazine. So if you've said you wanted to create a magazine with 14 pages, you type 14 in here, and obviously you want to start at page 1. Here you can tell the program if you want to have facing pages. That means pages 2 and 3 will be like a double page layout, and then pages 4 and 5 and so on until you get to the last page. The next thing we need to tell the program is our orientation. Do we want it to be portrait or landscape? Conventionally, magazines are portrait, but if for whatever reason you want to create your magazine landscape, you can just click on that here and it'll change it, but we'll keep ours at portrait. You can also dictate how many columns you want on each of your pages. Now don't worry about this too much, because when you actually are in the program, you can select say page 3 and change it to 4 columns whilst page 2 still has 1 or 2. Okay, so I'm just going to create a default of 1 column because I'm then going to change it depending on my layout later on. We'll just leave the gutter as it is. In terms of your margins, you can leave it at 12.7. I'm going to reduce my margins a bit smaller because I want to have more space to work with in my magazine. So I'm going to make my margins 8mm. And once I change one and click off it, you'll see that all of them are changed because they are linked. The last thing you need to worry about is the bleed and slug. Now, the only reason you need to worry about the bleed is if you're getting it professionally printed and cut down to size. So, if that's the case, you change it to 3. That's just kind of the default. But in our circumstances, because you'll be printing at school, you don't really need to do that. So let's just keep it at 0. And again, all of these change because they are linked, and you can see here by that little link symbol. Once you are happy with those settings, just press OK. And the program is now creating a 14-page magazine for you. So at the moment, you can only see page 1, but if I am to zoom out, you'll see that now as you scroll down, you'll see all the rest of the pages, and you'll see that because I clicked on facing pages, pages 2 and 3 are a 1 double page spread, pages 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. On the right hand side here, we have a few different options. Like in Photoshop, we have our layers option, which is really important to keep in mind, but I'll go over that when we go over how to actually add text and images, etc. The next thing here is pages. Okay, now this is what's important. So at the moment, we're on page 1, which is this one here, and then we can select page 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So if I double click on page 2, that's selected, and I go up to layout. You can add a page, insert a page, move a page to a different place if you like. But what we're going to click on is margins and columns. Now I've selected page 2, as you can see in the pages palette here. So I could potentially say, actually on page 2 I want 3 columns. And you'll see, because I've selected preview, you can see that that's changing, but just on page 2. So I'm going to just keep it at 2 pages. The gutter in between is going to stay the same, and I press OK. So now I've got 1 column on page 3 and 2 columns on page 2.